So I promised you guys a meet the animals video, so that's what this is, and I'm going to go around with my wife on her morning routine today before I leave for work. This is Gorgeous, the rabbit, and her friend Teddy, the guinea pig. The guinea pig's a fairly new arrival. It was bought as company for the rabbit, and this is my son Torrens. He might want to come and introduce you to it later as well. And this one used to be my daughter's, and the ownership has transferred to my wife's, as is the general direction of travel with animal ownership in this house, isn't it, love? These guys are basically free to keep because they live off grass, weeds, and lots of fruit and veg and things like that. So there's no feeding costs for these guys. You've seen these chicks a few days ago. And you see how they're changing, how they're feathering up? They're starting to get some colour on their wings there. Oh, good girl. Mum protecting her chick. I've upset Mum, so I'll put them back. Let her calm down a bit. That wasn't my goal. I don't know if you noticed, when I took the chick, she actually dove at me with her legs, like a male would, like a cock would. That's a really good sign of a protective mum. And our ever useless companion, Conker. Conker. We've got two dogs, and we've got this one and a slightly bigger one. This one never wants to be in the house, always wants to be outside, doesn't care what the weather's doing. You can see he's quite wet from this morning's rain. The other one never wants to be out. And this is the main flock of Pekins, the main sort of pet chickens, if you like, or at least the main pet chickens in this garden. Isn't that right, love? But again, you've met these guys before. Where's the other one like this? Where? Oh yeah. So the one closest to the camera there, that's one of our newer arrivals. Sorry, love? Yeah, and there's two of those. The rest have been with us a little while. We lost one recently, didn't we, love? One of the Pekins overnight, but they've been with us a little while. So, you know, if you've got livestock, you're going to have dead stock. So we lost one, assumedly just to old age. Some of our chickens, like our ex-battery hens, come here for retirement, and some of our chickens are born in retirement. I'm looking at you, my beautiful wife. So you know these guys. So these two here are our Toggenburgs. They're actually pedigree goats. They've got papers and everything. And a Toggenburg is a milking breed, a fairly small milking breed, but they definitely deliver. And that there's an Alpine, which is a slightly larger milking breed. Now, Fern came as a rescue, and the other two we actually purchased. These guys are about 2 years old, just over actually now, and we're not sure how old Fern is. The two Toggenburgs, I think they have got names, if you ask the rest of my family, but I don't have names for them or call them names. But they've got very different characters. So this guy, number 69, this is the most gregarious, affectionate goat, so long as I'm the other side of the fence. She's the first one to come to the fence. And once I go in there, their roles reverse. And then this guy becomes the most affectionate goat. And this one is the one that doesn't like to be caught at milking time. She likes to be a bit of a pickle and run away. Isn't that right, love? But they're all super friendly. So in terms of morning routine here, we just make sure that they've all got some hay or some hedge trimming, and that their water trough's nice and full. Fern loves to just hold my clothes. She won't eat them, she'll just hold them. This is, oh, lovely rhubarb. Just posing for the camera by taking a little whittle. And if you notice, rhubarb has, come here, rhubarb. She won't come here unless she thinks I've got food. She's extremely food motivated, aren't you, love? But if you notice, she's got a lovely sparkly pink collar to make her look like a beautiful sheep princess. She's my daughter's pet, and there's quite a long story there that I don't think I've ever shared, and I'm not sure I'm going to. But basically, my daughter had some fish that died, and this replaced them. That's about right, love, isn't it? Yeah, so we got her as an orphan lamb, and we bottle fed her in our hallway. We made a little pen in our hallway, and my daughter was excellent, actually. She got up every 4 hours right through the night for several days, and when we first got her, she didn't know how to drink. Here we go. See a beautiful sparkly pink collar. It was more beautiful and sparkly. It's a bit muddy now, but yeah, so my daughter got up every 4 hours to feed her, and when we first got her, she didn't know how to drink. She didn't know how to suck from a bottle, so my daughter had to feed her from a cowpole syringe every couple of hours when we first got her, didn't they? But she is stonkingly strong now. Really strong, healthy animal, aren't you, love? And she loves to be stroked between her horns, because I think that's the bit she struggles to get to herself. So another big part of the morning routine is to stock our little egg shop down here. I think I need to reprint our signs. You can't really read them very well. Next up is our meadow flock of chickens. So we've got two flocks, and we call them the meadow flock and the wood chickens. And you can see these guys are basically ignoring me and looking straight at my wife because they know what time it is, and it's not me time, it's wife time. So these will get some bread, some leftover bread from the bakery, and they'll just get their treadle feeder over there. We'll check that and then make sure they've got water for the day. So this isn't all of them. Some of them will be in the trailer. Because of the time of year, they're actually going through a molt at the moment. That's why they don't look, some of them, particularly fancy. But they'll all come back. Also, when they're molting, they lay a lot less eggs because a lot of their body's energy is going into making those new feathers. So we've got two of those big drinkers over there, and we keep dotted around bins to store our bread in. So you can see some bins over there in the distance. My wife's on the way to now. She's going to go and pick up some of the bread that we get free that's left over from the bakery. So out here, they're protected by this. Well, two things really. They're protected by this electric fence and just the general location, the fact that there's a lot of open ground all around them. That combined with the electric fence thus far has been enough to keep the fox out. So fingers crossed that will remain to be the case. This is our electric fence system. So we've got a little solar panel trickle charger which charges the batteries, and then our fencer which converts the battery power into the electrical charge in the fence. Twice a day the fences get checked, once in the morning and once before we go to bed, to check that they're all working all right. And now they're getting their bread. I wish my wife wasn't so camera shy, because then I could show you the beaming grin on her face as she's feeding her chickens and pointing at the meeting. And they all like to lay, for whatever reason, in the same place. So we've got a bit of a queue at the moment. They're very British. They'll quite happily just queue. They won't lay until they get to sit in the corner. Strange they don't use those boxes.
A couple of them lay in the boxes, maybe two in each box. And the bedding is there because they keep freaking it out. I don't like it.
Going back to join the queue. Is anyone else having this issue with their tomatoes this year? We've got thousands of tomatoes everywhere, and hardly any of them are ripening, even in the polytunnel. It's right at the end of August now, and almost September, and this time last year we were just swimming in tomatoes. So I just wondering, is anyone else having the same issue? So here in the polytunnel, look, we've got lots of really healthy tomato plants, and I think the issue is stopping. I think we're about to have lots of ripe ones, because down here you can see the first of our bigger tomatoes ripening and one of our yellow tomatoes there ripening. But we've still got far more green to red than I would have expected at this time of year. Just wondered if that's something that the rest of you are experiencing. So next up will be the Brahmas. You can see them back there, and they know exactly what's happening. So they're just waiting for their morning bread. And behind them, in a little run inside that run, are the two chickens that I rescued from the meat factory. So they're in a smaller run than I'd like at the moment, but they're just in there until I've got the chance to build them something a bit bigger. Now, you've met the Brahmas before. These are a decorative breed, so they're not utility. Well, some people actually do keep them as a utility bird, as I say the words coming out of my mouth. A utility bird is a bird that would do what? Sorry, love?
Meat and eggs.
Meat and eggs, because they get to a decent size and they do lay eggs. So they're not quite as useless as I sometimes jokingly say they are. They do fill a purpose. They do provide us with eggs. And the cockbirds also raise up to be table birds. Back there, in that little run, it's not quite as little as it looks. We'll go back and have a look in a second. But those are the two meat birds that I rescued, and we're keeping them as a breeding pair, hopefully. We'll see how we get on. But the idea will be that they will lay eggs, and we'll be able to raise them up as table birds, all of their offspring, basically. So this down here, this is an ex-battery hen, and she's here because she had a poorly leg and she couldn't walk. Now, the battery hens are far less forgiving of ailments in their flock than these guys. So she was basically getting picked on, and they would have killed her. So my wife saw what was happening and rescued her and brought her out here. So how long has she been in here, love? About a year and a half she's been in here, and she's always got the limp. She's never got over that, but she's perfectly happy, as you can see. And she lays eggs. When we rescued this one from the factory farming unit that we collected her from, she actually had a stitch in her head. So she'd obviously been involved in something as well back in her past life. Look how happy she is. So these guys are a little bit nervous around us. They always have been. They're quite scatty, but they're settling down a lot, to be fair. And these are, like I say, a purely meat breed. So we'll have to wait and see how things pan out for them. Because if she, if she doesn't lay any eggs, or she lays of so few that it's too much trouble, then obviously these will just become meat birds. But that's all they were ever destined to be. So while they're with us, they'll have a nice life, however long that might be.
For Pekins, if you moved it every day, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
I quite often talk about having a bath-sized space in your garden. So this here, if you had 2 or 3 Pekins, this is a perfect size. If you moved it every day or every 2 or 3 days, this is a perfect size for keeping 2 or 3 Pekins in. They'd be very happy in there. And Pekins are the chickens that we've got outside the kitchen, the ones I showed you first. They're quite a bit smaller. My wife's favourite are always the needy birds. Now we're going to go into the wood chickens, which is our second flock of the ISA Browns. And you'll see when we go in there, we've got a really high fence. We've got a 6 foot high fence. Well, it's actually more than that probably, which isn't electrified. But then around the outside, we've got this single strand of electric fence, which does two jobs. It discourages the fox from trying to dig under that fence or get close enough to jump it. And it also keeps the pigs out because the hens have the run of the rest of the wood. And it's super effective, this single strand against the pigs. And you can see how effective it is because all these quince fruits that have landed, as you can see, outside the fence, outside the electric fence, they gobble them all up. You can see the odd one or two there that have fallen recently, but they'll be gone by the end of the day. And then inside the fence, you can see the pigs aren't coming in here because there's lots and lots. They tear up the ground in here pretty quickly, so they lose a lot of their grass forage that the other chickens get, but we make up for that by bringing them lots and lots of greens. And that could be trimmings from our vegetable garden, or it could be some of the food that we pick up for the pigs. And then the process in here, these basically have the same process as the other hens in the morning, just making sure all their food and water and everything is topped up. And I think we're going to get a guest appearance from the pigs. Hello, girls. So you all know these guys. These guys have been with us about 6 months now, and they are almost at meat size. So we're nearly there. They're going to be here, or at least one of them certainly is only going to be here for another week or two. And the other one, we haven't decided yet whether we're going to breed from her for next year's bacon or whether they're both going to go and be processed. We haven't really decided yet. These chickens are a little bit younger, a lot of them, than the other chickens. And as always, all of our stock gets moved quite a lot. So they're only in here to give some other ground, which is a little bit nicer for them, a bit of a break. It's really important to break ground, to give it a really long 6 week or more break, because it breaks the cycle of the parasites that are in the animals and then live in the animal's feces and then get back into the animal. It breaks that cycle. If you give that ground a break for 6 weeks, the life cycle breaks down. And then in the house, we've also got a few pets. This down here is Timmy. Timmy belongs to my son. He's going to come and grab him, I think, for us. So how old is Timmy?
3 years.
Yeah, something like that, 3. We've had him since he was a little baby, haven't we?
Yeah.
So on the back of his shell was a number, that Tipex. Leftover Tipex, you can see there used to be a number. That's how much he's grown. What number was it, Rob?
12.
12. So that used to be a number 12. But I love Timmy. How old will he get?
100 and something.
150 maybe.
Yeah.
He's a Horsefield tortoise. And he's Rockus's. Rockus, what does he eat?
He'll eat dandelions, grass, clover, some veg or fruits.
So again, very, very cheap to keep. He's trying to make his way down my arm. So do you want to take him back, Rob? Torrance here. Morning, Toots.
Hi.
So I've already shown Teddy very, very briefly, because I showed Teddy with Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Did you want to go and get Teddy
Sure.
and show him off a bit closer? So next up is my only pet. Or pets. And I have, this is an old shed skin. And that's about 5 foot. And this is one of my 2 corn snakes. This one's Kevin, and the other one is Ghost, because he's an albino. There's Ghost. Ghost is the friendliest, calmest, and the biggest. But they're both friendly. So there's an interesting story behind these guys. We went out on Mother's Day to do some shopping. I can't remember what for. We went to a garden centre and these guys were there. And we only went out to buy something for my wife for Mother's Day, and I came home with these 2 snakes and the vivarium and everything. And I've never been allowed to forget that. Isn't that right, Tom? These were my Mother's Day present for myself. And again, these guys were actually rescues. So even though I bought them in a shop, but they were rescued from someone else. So we're not entirely sure how old they are. And we've had these for 2 years now. Our second dog, Sprocket, is slightly better behaved. He's a little bit more obedient. He's going to come when we call him, whereas Conker will have a propensity to run off, not to be seen again for an hour or two while he's exploring the village, completely off-piste and without a hallway note. So we've developed a system recently, I showed you in another video, where we've got a lead that attaches to both collars. So when they go out, they can now both, because previously Conker, this one wasn't allowed off the lead outside the garden, but even in the bigger garden, he wasn't allowed off the lead, whereas now they can both be off the lead if they're attached to each other, because when we call Sprocket, he's a slightly bigger dog, and they both come back, and they're both very happy with that, aren't you? Right, so tell us all about Teddy.
Well, he's my guinea pig. Got him from one of my mum's friends because both of my other guinea pigs died, and then they had a lot of guinea pigs and rabbits.
Ah.
They had too many, and they needed to get rid of some.
So it was good for everyone then?
Yep.
And is Teddy as friendly as your last guinea pigs?
Oh, yeah.
More friendly?
About the same.
About the same.
When you catch him, he's nice. He can sit still.
And does he get on with the rabbit?
Yeah.
Are they besties?
Yeah. And for some reason they got on with Rox's tortoise.
They do, don't they?
Yep.
And how do you know that?
Because we put them outside together in a run, and they were all fine.
Yeah. So that's it for today, guys. And as always, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Press that like button and leave a comment down below. Speak to you tomorrow. Say goodbye, Tom.
Bye.